Great. Well, I'm Haize Lizarazu, I'm going to talk about the musical gesture in a performance scene, let's say, in a performative way, and how to use it also in as a creative element. Okay, it could be in composition, could be in improvisation, it could be in different kind of fields. Why am I talking about this? Well, I'm going to introduce myself a little bit so you know where do I come from and why do I have this interest in the musical gesture. I'm a pianist. My basic education is I came from the classical piano in conservatories. In fact, I studied also in Esmuc some years ago. And afterwards, I kind of went to the contemporary music. I specialized myself in contemporary music. Afterwards, I continued in going more into sound arts, improvisation. Let's say I went away a little bit from this conservatory kind of, education, okay? And currently, I'm doing a PhD, and my main theme focus is musical gesture. Maybe you don't know, probably you don't know, it's kind of a new field in the academia, in the universities, but there is since, I don't know, yeah, for 10 years more or less, it's been developing some studies and some programs in musical gesture studies that analyze in a way how the performers move and how the performers interact with their instruments. And this data is used, is used for many things, but one of the maybe most interesting things for me is that afterwards it has applications in technology to understand how we move and how we process the cognition through sound is afterwards used for technology and, making the movements more human-likely in technology. Okay? So I did a concert here last Monday on the first day of the festival, and all the pieces that were presented, I did a concert, kind of, let's say, piano concert, but there was no piano on stage. So it was all about all these pianistic gestures, and they were put it there up front. The focus was on the movement that we do from our very beginning of our musical educations until completely decontextualized movements of the piano and all mixed up with electronics, video, and all kind of media. It was a mediated concert. So, why is it that important for me, at least, or interesting? The the understanding of how our body behaves in the musical act, let's say. For that, I would like to start putting a little video, okay, very short video, 1 minute, and it's a muted video. It has no sound. So I would like you to tell me afterwards if you can get any information, any musical information from that video just by watching and not listening, okay? And from that on, we go on from that. Okay, that was it. Hola. Perdona, ¿entiendes inglés? Vale, perfecto. So, can anybody tell me anything about the video? Did we get any kind of musical information from this muted video? Anyone?
Sure. It's different styles starting below, I think, moving up to contemporary.
Excuse me?
Different musical styles that played for different periods. Obviously, what was meant who we would concentrate on release, performance concentrate on different attacks. So you can see their attack style, and also that they're highly trained.
Of course, yeah.
They're very close to the keys. They're all professionals. Nobody was playing bad.
Okay, yeah, they were all professional pianists. That's true, that's true. And yes, they were all different musical genres and musical styles and musical times. Could we also get more or less, or could we guess which kind of styles were they? Yeah, but inside this classical music umbrella term, could we, as we are all musicians, that's why I ask, of course.
Bach was played.
Okay.
Bach.
Mm-hmm.
That was played.
Mm-hmm.
Something romantic, 19th century.
Mm-hmm.
Something contemporary.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe Mozart.
Okay. Okay. Quite close. Quite close.
What was interesting was the older people played quite differently.
Absolutely. That's, of course, a style thing through the time.
They were not interested in Chopin.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the keys, no
Mm-hmm.
Diaz.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Someone else wants to say something else?
Maybe Rachmaninoff, because there was two pianists that play very faster and very
Virtuoso music, right? Yeah, okay. So we can just by looking at the gestures of the, in this case, pianists, we can at least have a very important information of the music we are listening to, right? And these kind of things, of course, they're highly trained, as Arthur said, and this is a bit a starting point to understand why are we not paying that attention that I think it deserves to all the movements that are involved in the musical performance. One of the things that I think, of course, this is in Spanish. Sorry about that. One of the things that it's for me a critical thing to say is that the traditional music history and musicology had this kind of very dualistic point of view of analyzing the music, right? We have the mind and the composer and the idea and everything, blah blah, in one side, and the body was seen like just something that, you know, like ejecutor, something that you just go and play, right? It's we never gave, well, the history never gave really like an importance of to all the cognition that we learn through the body so we can perform a piece. Okay, so in the musical education it's also like that. I mean, when we, there are some performers here, when you learn an instrument, it's all focused on mainly on a score, and this score, it's like the artistic object, and it's something like that, it's untouchable, let's say, and you have to do what it's written, you have to like obey this kind of score, right? And this Cartesian point of view comes from far away, of course. But from the 20th century on, some philosophers, starting mainly with Merleau-Ponty, started when phenomenology started to talk about what about if we learn also through our experience, and the experience involves necessarily our body, right? What about if we really think that there's not such a thing like a separation between this mind and this body, but everything it's settled in the same thing, right? That's like the embodied mind, what it's called the embodied mind. And that's the starting point also of the cognitive science. What's that? Cognitive science, it's the part of the science that focuses on how we learn things, and it started with all the computer science. Okay, let's say that the first computers they had a behavior, they invented them with a kind of neuronal kind of behavior. Why? Because they wanted to imitate how the human mind works. Uh, the cognitive sciences go for a kind of holistic way of understanding the cognition, the understanding how we understand and how we learn stuff. And all these, well, all these studies that it's been done, I think it's very interesting that we also put it into the musical, the musical studies, and that's where the musical gesture studies come. It's let's say that it's a transdisciplinary area where we have cognitive science, we have music, we have performance studies, theater studies, all kind of studies that focus on the body as as a main point of understanding cognitive processes. All these things make a big critic to the historically traditional musicology, as I said, and because it tells us that music should be analyzed as performance and not just as kind of abstract idea in someone's mind that some other person just executes. Okay, so in these musical gesture studies, there's some, they have some methodologies, and they have some kind of separation of different kind of gestures and movements, which I find it's not really that interesting, but it's necessary also. Well, in all kind of studies, you need to have a methodology and you need to have kind of a classification of different kind of movements. Okay, so the key concepts here would be the sound producing gestures. They're quite self-explanatory, all the concepts. The communicative gestures, the one that we use to communicate with other performers or also with audience. The sound facilitating gestures and the sound accompanying gestures. Okay, but what happens with these concepts is that they're all seen from a third person point of view. Okay, it's someone observing another person playing, performing, and then they make all this kind of, data and classifications and whatever. What I think it's important in this field is to focus also on the first person point of view. Okay, why? Because I think there are also other processes happening that you cannot see from the outside and that cannot be shown because they happen much before, far away before the sound happens, and even before you start moving. There is a whole previous part that happens, that has a link with your memory, with your own experience, and of course with your own behavioral patterns in general. Okay, so it is also very interesting for me that there are other arts that have been already working on this kind of all these kind of topics that I just explained before. I don't know, for so many years, and one of them is the experimental theater, the one that afterwards went to the performance art, and of course the performance studies later, from the 90s on. This kind of theater, the main names I'm not going to say a lot, but the most famous ones are Grotowski and Eugenio Barba. They introduced us the term pre-expressivity. Okay, and not only introduced it theoretically, but also worked on it on stage and off stage. It was a technique process they developed to control the body before it really moves, to have some consciousness and proprioception of your own body before the body even does any kind of movement. Okay, it's a kind of presence on scene. It's what you in an everyday talking way you would say presence. No, this guy or this girl has a presence on stage, and this kind of uh, actions or pre-actions are all also worked out. Okay, so for that, I would like to show a little, just as an example, of how Grotowski used to work. It's a short video of him working with two students on different kind of movements with the body.
One like that, yes, and one like that. And you have to pass these 2 points. First hop, second hop, second hop, first, second. Huh? That, more than that. And that, and pass both. And to play. 2. You can play. And up. Relax.
Well, this is just an example, okay, but what it's really striking for me is that other arts long time ago, like theater, got rid of this anchor of the text and focus on the performing body as the main focus point. And it's so difficult to see a simile or a comparison in music. We are still very, very anchored to the text, which for us is the score. So that's why I find really interesting in looking at other arts. I think it's very important to look at how other arts have developed their own material and maybe find some things that are useful for us too. So based on this pre-expressivity, I would like to introduce a term that it's called the pre-gesture, and that is a little bit what I was talking about before. It's this non-visible part of the body where you already know what you're gonna do. You already know what you're gonna play. How is it going to sound? Of course, there is a training there before for that, but this part, it's never, or at least almost never, paid attention to during musical education. It's all about the sound production, and it's all about the result of this sound production. And I really think we need to give credit to this body knowledge that we all in music have, and that it comes far before this sound happens. This is also related to this first person perspective that I was talking before. Of course, these kind of things, you can only experience them through, well, yeah, it's redundant, but through experience, right? Through your own experience. Why do I think this is linked to memory? Well, now I'm going to put the example of a first piece I played in the concert, in the Monday concert, which I think nobody was there. Or were you Monday either? Great. So I will put then the whole piece so you can watch it. Okay, it's a 10-minute piece. It's a piece that I worked with the composer Fran Cabeza de Vaca. He's a composer from Madrid. And it's a piece that focuses on the previous moment of the sound production, okay? And this silence that precedes the sound, and that linked to the moment, the previous moment of the movement also to make that sound possible, okay? That's like the main concept we worked on together. And well, I think best thing I can do is first, let's watch it. And then we continue talking about it. Here it is. Okay, so that was the piece, first piece which I opened the concert with. And this piece, it has many interesting aspects, at least in my opinion. But one of the things is that for a performer to learn the piece, you had to kind of make a reverse kind of study process in comparison to other kind of piano pieces. Okay, in the moment you eliminate the object, in this case the piano, and you have to focus very, very carefully on which kind of movements do you do, and you have to also memorize these kind of movements so you can prepare them in advance. Because the score, this is a video score that I have in the inside part of the panel, and it appears different kind of information and different kind of information. So you perform it. Okay, one of them are very small score miniatures, really, really small, like maybe just one bar. You have not a lot of information, just so you have to like build up that information so you learn it in advance, and afterwards you memorize only the basic information that goes previous to the sound production. So for that, inside my process also, I kind of recorded myself with all the small bits. I mean, I'm not going to put the whole thing because they're like a lot, but it's like really small ones, and you memorize them. Well, etc., etc. I'm not going to put the whole thing, but it's interesting to eliminate, in this case, the piano for this reason, to highlight this pre-gesture that I was talking about before. Yeah, see. Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah, the video score starts. First of all, you have to, the piece is like in two sections, very clearly, right? Until the moment I touch the board, the table. The first time, that's the first time that it also the sound. It's really a real sound. Before that, they were all a kind of yeah, it was juxtaposition and superposition of different kind of silences previous to the sound. Okay, the first time that real sound appears is first time also that I touch the table, and of course all that previous part that you can see, like for example here. So as you see, it's of course it's impossible to read that in the time that it's required. That's why the study of this piece comes in this kind of reverse way that I was telling you, right? Because you need to not only memorize the scores then in order of appearance, but it's, for me at least, when I was practicing it, the memorization of that was most importantly in an oral way, in a not in a visual way, but in a kind of oral memory, auditiva. Yeah. Because if I know how it sounds, if I know how I want it to sound, it's only that moment that I can connect it with the gesture that will come afterwards, not just with the visual information. And that's, for me, also very interesting thing to realize, because probably I wouldn't realize how the movement is that much connected to your oral memory until you don't really put yourself in a kind of situation where you have to, for example, play something and you don't have the piano for the resulting sound. So this is something that we worked on with Fran, and that's and this is let's say it's kind of a artistic research that I'm doing in this case in the concept of pre-gesture, which is not, I haven't really seen a lot written about it, so I think it's something that it's worth researching, let's say. And well, I would like to close a little bit this talk with other examples of other pieces that I find interesting by other composers that use gestures in different kind of ways as a creative element. Okay, so well, we have. I just put it some here, and of course, afterwards, if anybody has any question, please, you're more than welcome to ask them. This first piece, it's an installation piece by Katharina Rosenberger. She's a Swiss composer living in the States. And it's an installation, video installation of, this is Yvonne Reiner, sorry, of 4 different performers. We have piano, accordion, percussion, and cello. And the piece is, you only see the back of the performers, so you only are able to see the movements of the back of the performers while they are playing. I find it really beautiful, but but well, maybe it's just me, but I find a really interesting piece and a really interesting approach of the gesture as a creative element. So I don't know, let's put something like, let's put cello, for example. And they're all in 4 screens at the same time, okay? But here we can't listen to them at the same time. Okay, wait a second. It's a very long piece. I won't play the whole thing, otherwise we'll be here till tomorrow. Another example, and also piece that I performed the other day, Monday. Seeing that you weren't there, maybe it's good to see it. Is this one, which is the gestural thing here. It's more like a choreography, you'll see. But in fact, the main the main focus of the composer was not the gesture, but more to work on the virtuality of the performer. Okay, you'll see now why I say the virtuality, but it also eliminates the piano in a way, even though it's very, very present because of, well, you'll see. I'm not going to say it much because you'll see what I mean. you see this one, it's almost like almost, well, not almost, it's a humor kind of way of relating to pianistic gesture and technologies. Of course, this is live video, and it records you live, and then it has all this, well, this patch going on, and you go like double speed or half speed, the right and in the left, and it's a kind of chamber music with yourself, let's say, with your own avatars. And well, it's very funny and also interesting kind of way of doing it. And well, there are some other composers like Simon Steen Andersen, or of course the classics that started with composing with movement and with bodies. Well, you had to go like in this music theater kind of style, starting a bit with Kagel and going afterwards also with Spralinger or with Pergis. We don't have time, of course, to put all this music, but I encourage you to, if you find it interesting, there are some really nice and interesting pieces in this area. And well, and I don't know if you have any questions related to the subject, or I don't know if someone wants to ask